Coming up on this edition of Reel to Reel.
I'm Carolee McGrath. We'll take you to a vibrant inner city parish in Lawrence that's showing people of all walks of life the light of Christ.
I'm Steve Kiltonick. She was praised by Pope Francis during his address to Congress last fall. I'll have the story of Dorothy Day, the champion of the poor, who many are calling a saint for our time.
And all are invited to a diocesan pilgrimage day for the Jubilee Year of Mercy. These stories and more are just ahead on this edition of Reel to Reel from Camp Holy Cross in Goshen. Hello and welcome to Reel from Camp Holy Cross in Goshen. Nestled on 250 acres of pristine land, Camp Holy Cross has been a part of the Diocese of Springfield since 1930, and it's here that the diocese will host a pilgrimage day for the Jubilee Year of Mercy coming up this September 10th. And joining me now is Springfield Bishop Mitchell Rosansky, who is here with a special invitation of sorts. Welcome, Bishop. Isn't it so beautiful here?
It is just a wonderful spot and a beautiful place to be. And it's a real treasure of our diocese that we have Camp Holy Cross here in Goshen. So Sharon, it's always beautiful to be here, but on such a wonderful day like today, it's especially a grace-filled day.
Exactly. Now, as we just spoke briefly about before, coming up on September 10th, it's a very special day of celebration. What is this day all about?
Well, when Pope Francis declared that this would be a year of mercy, we wanted to find some sort of way to express our appreciation for God's mercy and to also have a great time together. So this will be a pilgrimage day. We're always reminded as Catholics we're on pilgrimage, and this is part of our pilgrimage for the Year of Mercy. So we will come here, there will be all sorts of different events, different talks, different speakers, different age groups will be entertained. So it's just a day to get together as a diocesan family to celebrate the Year of Mercy and to ask God's blessings upon us as we seek to be those who witness to the mercy of God, bringing that out to others.
Mm-hmm. And it's important for people to take the time for themselves for a day of prayer and reflection. Why is it so important?
Well, we're always in the busy pace of life, and life always seems so hectic. And when you come to a place like Camp Holy Cross, you just feel relaxed, you see the beauty of nature, you're reminded of God's glory all around. So to take the time to come out here for the Year of Mercy on September the 10th for our pilgrimage is a time when we really can just rest, relax in the Lord, and be refreshed here in these beautiful surroundings.
All right, well, looking forward to it. Thanks for being with us, Bishop Mitchell Rosansky. And for more information or to register, you can find a link on our website at iobserve.org. As Bishop Rosansky said, there are several speakers scheduled for the pilgrimage day, including Father Paul O'Brien, pastor of St. Patrick's Parish in Lawrence, Massachusetts. Father O'Brien is a tells-it-like-it-is Harvard-educated Catholic priest who has served with the poorest of the poor with Mother Teresa of Calcutta and founded a meal center to feed the hungry in his own city of Lawrence. He also can claim another famous O'Brien as his good friend. Carolee McGrath tells us more.
Lawrence, Mass. is a smaller city north of Boston, which certainly has its share of big city problems. In the center of it stands St. Patrick Church, a diverse inner city parish with a sometimes brutally honest pastor not afraid to preach Jesus on the streets.
Life is very short here, and nobody ever said you connect with people when they walk in the door of the church. Whoever said that? You're supposed to connect with people. You're supposed to go out to the whole world and proclaim the good news. Well, the whole world is right on the streets of Lawrence.
St. Patrick's is home to 10,000 families. Father Paul O'Brien, the pastor, says poverty, drugs, and hunger are real problems in his community.
Of any really inhabited city or town in Massachusetts, we've got the lowest per capita income. It's about $17,000 per year. About 30% of kids live below the poverty line, 25 to 30% of people live below the poverty line, and a significant percentage of seniors do as well.
While the need can seem overwhelming, Father Paul, a Harvard grad, isn't easily discouraged.
My goal is with every human being on this planet to share the truth of who Jesus is.
Father Paul was ordained a priest in the Archdiocese of Boston in 1991 and was assigned to St. Patrick in 2001. Lawrence is known as the immigrant city, with the first wave of immigrants coming from Ireland. Today, Latinos make up the largest immigrant group, about 75%, in the city of close to 80,000 people. There are 9 masses per weekend in English, Spanish, and Vietnamese.
If you go to these different masses with very, very different styles and different kinds of people, you very quickly get a sense that whoever they are and whatever the style is, people are quite serious about God.
And that's evident with the more than 50 ministries at the parish, including a pro-life ministry and a meal center built by the parish in an adjacent parking lot called Cor Unum. The nonprofit opened in 2006 and serves restaurant-quality meals to people in need. The meal center was the dream of just a few parishioners in 2001.
Then we went out and we said, if this is God's will, there will be people who want to fund this. If we find over some period of time there aren't people to fund it, then we'll take that at God's will at some point. So from 2001, it was just 5 years. And in September of 2006, we opened Cor Unum, and we now serve 250,000 meals a year.
One of Cor Unum's supporters is late-night comedian Conan O'Brien, a close college friend who's not related.
He was one of the people who conceptualized Labels Are for Jars, the organization that raised most of the money to build and support Cor Unum. And when he's here, he and his wife and his kids, waiter and waitress at Cor Unum.
Father Paul, a big proponent of Catholic education, is also on the board of trustees of Lawrence Catholic Academy, just around the corner from the church. It's a collaborative effort of St. Patrick Parish and Our Lady of Good Counsel. Rumelo Cabrera attended Lawrence Academy and is now a sophomore at Notre Dame Catholic High School.
When I was 3, my dad left, so God helped me and my mother out, because we only lived by ramen noodles. And then we met this lady, and she helped us out. She basically took care of me while my mom took double jobs.
One of Father Paul's hooks with the youth is basketball. Every Sunday night he opens up the parish center for pickup games. Now, many of the teens who come have never been inside St. Patrick's, but Father Paul says it's a great place to start with evangelization.
There's absolutely no fighting. There's absolutely no use of weapons. There is, during the games, it's a technical foul if you use the F word or the N word. In Lawrence, every other word is the F word or the N word. So as simple as that sounds, it's a basketball experience that's just like playing basketball in the streets, except the expectations of behavior are very Catholic, they're very elevated.
Father Paul says in most cases, this is the only place to introduce teens, many of whom are in gangs, to the love of Christ.
Some number of kids who are playing basketball right now will be dead next year at this time. If I waited around to interact as a priest, or if we as a community interacted deeply with kids when they come into the church, well, those kids are going to be dead before they come into the church.
Blunt, maybe, but on point, say the many lay people who support Father Paul's mission to bring Jesus to the world.
It's a reality when you have a community, not just because it's an immigrant community, but a community that struggles, trying to get quality education, trying to get a job that is stable, and trying to find opportunities to really secure the basics, the housing, food, healthcare. So I think it's important for a church, a faith-based institution, to be able to understand what the community is like, because that's what Christ is going to be like. That's how we're finding Christ.
And that's how they're bringing Christ's love, joy, and mercy to Lawrence and beyond. Reporting for Reel to Reel, I'm Carolee McGrath.
One of the keynote speakers for the Pilgrimage Day will be Father Dinh Vo Tran, who will address the Vietnamese Catholic community. Currently on staff at St. Anne's Shrine in nearby Sturbridge, he also has the unique distinction given to him by the Vatican. Peggy Weber tells us more.
Assumptionist Father Dinh Vo Tran is one of only 125 missionaries of mercy in the United States. Designated by Pope Francis for the Jubilee Year of Mercy, there are only 1,142 worldwide. And he is taking that responsibility quite seriously. Pope Francis named the priests to be missionaries of mercy for bishops to summon to their diocese to preach about mercy and hear confessions. Father says he reads the letter of appointment from the Holy See every week.
And the letter from the Holy See is very clear. Make yourself available to the needs of the mercy itself.
The 46-year-old priest travels around the world offering retreats, pilgrimages, and talks about mercy. When he is not delivering the message of mercy, he is the rector of St. Anne's Shrine in Sturbridge, Mass. A native of Vietnam, he persisted in his vocation to the priesthood. His late father, a Buddhist convert to Catholicism, was also anti-communist. This meant that Father Vautrin was denied the opportunity to become a priest in his homeland. He went to the Philippines in 2000 to study, and there he met the Assumptionists, who run Assumption College in Worcester and St. Anne's Shrine. He said God opened a new door for him to experience religious life, and he found a home in religious life. Ordained in 2011, Father Vautrin has studied at the Western School of Theology and lectured at Assumption College. Most recently, he led more than 120 pilgrims to see the Holy Door at Notre Dame Basilica in Quebec. He said he has traveled a lot to talk about mercy.
God is so merciful to us, and God is so generous to us. So my message is the year of Jubilee. I invite the people to return to the source, to come back to the heart of the church in order to experience how merciful God is to us. I want to bring people to the core of the gospel, particularly the core of the scripture. We need to return to scripture and the heart of the church.
Mercy is clearly his message. He says God is never tired to give his gift of mercy. Father Vautrin said that his work at the shrine is also part of his ministry of mercy. He said there is a peacefulness on these 35 acres just off Route 20. Here on the beautiful grounds of St. Anne's Shrine, they have the Holy Steps, modeled after the Holy Steps at St. John Lateran Church in Rome. I think, though, they're also called the Holy Steps because anybody who makes it up those steps says, "Holy smokes, I did it!" There are outdoor places to pray, including the Stations of the Cross. Masses are held at the pavilion during the summer. There also are opportunities for morning prayer, the Chaplet of Divine Mercy, and daily Mass. The biggest event at the shrine is the St. Anne Novena, July 18th through the 26th. This year will be the 129th Novena and features special days dedicated to various languages and cultures. Father Vautrin said the week highlights the universal nature of the Church. And he said he is looking forward to coming to the Diocese of Springfield and continuing his work as a missionary of mercy. For Real to Real, I'm Peggy Weber.
To find out more about the annual St. Anne Novena, you can go to our website at iobserve.org. When Pope Francis opened the holy doors for this Jubilee Year of Mercy, this was an historic moment as the whole world's attention focuses on Rome's papal basilicas. Now for a one-night event on Thursday, July 14th, in select theaters across the country, including right here in Western Massachusetts, you will be able to see a special film, St. Peter's and the Papal Basilicas of Rome. This new film production by Sky 3D and the Vatican Television Center will take viewers on a journey through the 4 papal basilicas in Rome and their treasures. The basilicas include St. Peter's, St. John Lateran, St. Mary Major, and St. Paul outside the walls. During the 90 minutes of the film, 4 experts will discuss the basilicas and the works of art contained in them. These experts will give original and compelling descriptions and their own individual perspectives on the basilicas, their evolution over the centuries, their most famous works of art, and the lives and stories of popes and artists. During a recent Skype interview, Cosetta Lagani, director of Sky 3D and creator of this project, spoke about the unique opportunity for people to get a glimpse inside some very special historic places that are so important to the Catholic Church. She says the film is like having your own private tour of the museums.
to enjoy the visit without any other visitors in these majestic cathedrals of faith, art, and culture, and to be able to enjoy the basilicas and their masterpieces from point of view exclusive, not visible from normal visitors.
And the director also says this film becomes even more important during this Jubilee Year of Mercy.
Because of the opening of the holy doors in the occasion of the Jubilee of the Mercy of the four basilicas, object of our film, represents an ideal and a virtual entrance in these places for all the faithful and pilgrims of the world that will not able to come in Rome for the Jubilee.
This is a unique opportunity, says the filmmaker, for viewers to virtually travel to these important sites to learn about the role of art within Christian tradition and the profound spirituality that exists within each basilica. Here now is an excerpt of the film using a narrative thread from the Roman Journal by the famous French writer Stendhal, who visited the four basilicas at the beginning of the 19th century. Stendhal's words are recited by Adriano Giannini.
The traveler who enters St. Peter's intending to inspect everything will end up with a terrible headache, and before long, sated and exhausted, will be incapable of feeling any pleasure. Instead, just abandon yourself for a while to the awe inspired by a monument so vast, so beautiful, and so well cared for. St. John Lateran is the first church of the world. Omnium urbis et orbis ecclesiarium mater et caput. It is the seat of the sovereign pontiff as Bishop of Rome. Constantine had this basilica built in his own palace and then ceded it to the sovereign popes. The road which leads from St. John's Lateran to St. Mary Major runs in a straight line. Thanks to its raised position, there's no mud and it's not fashionable. In other words, it offers all the conditions for a lively gallop. With all this gold, the basilica resembles a magnificent salon, and not at all a forbidding abode of the omnipotent. I visited St. Paul's the day after the Great Fire. I found an austere beauty and a searing pain which only the music of Mozart could make us hear. Everything expressed the horror, the confusion of this tragic event. The Romans who thronged the church were in a state of shock. This was one of the most beauteous sights I had ever seen, sufficient by itself to justify my 1823 journey to Rome.
This looks like an amazing film and a great opportunity for an inside look at some of the greatest edifices in the world. You can find a link to the theater locations at iobserve.org, where you can also sign up for the spiritually uplifting Diocesan Pilgrimage Day of Mercy. That's our 24/7 news and information website, iobserve.org. As we've been saying, the Diocesan Pilgrimage Day coming up September 10th here at Camp Holy Cross will feature some amazing opportunities to celebrate the Catholic faith during this Jubilee Year of Mercy. Well, recently Steve Kiltonick met with Carolyn Zablotny, one of the scheduled keynote speakers for the Pilgrimage Day. Steve tells us now that Zablotny, who serves as a communications consultant for the Dorothy Day Guild, which has been officially charged with forwarding Day's cause for sainthood. As Steve learned, Day is a perfect role model in demonstrating acts of mercy.
Dorothy Day has been called many things: an activist, a journalist, a radical, a convert, a mother, a mystic, a prophet, and a faithful daughter of the Catholic Church. For over 50 years, she articulated the need for nonviolence and also played a leadership role in many national struggles for peace, justice, and human rights. It was through her life, her writing, and the work of the Catholic worker that she applied the teachings of Christ to modern conditions. Catholic historian David O'Brien proclaimed Day as the most important, interesting, and influential figure in the history of American Catholicism. Perhaps the title, Champion of the Poor, suits her best. Carolyn Zablotny, who lives in the Berkshire town of Mill River, is the editor of the Dorothy Day Guild newsletter. The Guild was established in 2005 to promote Day's cause for sainthood. Zablotny first learned about Day in high school when she read her autobiography, The Long Loneliness.
There was one sentence that just kind of held me, how she said she wanted the abundant life, and she wanted it for others too, but she didn't have a clue as to how to go about finding that. And I think I so identified with that, so it kind of stayed in my head.
Zablotny went on to attend Catholic Manhattanville College in New York during the tumultuous 1960s. It was here that she became reacquainted with Day in the school library when she noticed the Catholic Worker newsletter, which Day co-founded.
The first article, front page, was on nonviolence and struggling, how to respond in the spirit of the gospel to the war raging at the time in Vietnam. And I just started to read the paper and just kept reading the paper, and it was very new, very, very fresh. But I began to get that, this is maybe, faith in action.
Zablotny was inspired by Day to join what she calls an alternative radical Christian community in Harlem called Amaya's House. She worked there 8 years before pursuing a career in not-for-profit management and development.
Once you've been kind of exposed, I think, to her life story and to the Catholic Worker movement in general, it just kind of stays with you and haunts you in various ways.
Day was born in Brooklyn in 1897 and baptized an Episcopalian. Her father, a sports writer, moved the family to San Francisco when she was 6. Here Day experienced the devastation of the San Francisco earthquake.
She saw her mother give out clothes to the poor, for example, or to the newly homeless, and that simple act of kindness imprinted itself on her.
Her family moved to Chicago, where she received a scholarship to the University of Illinois. Here she joined a socialist group. After the family returned to New York, Day left school and got a job as a writer for a socialist daily.
She always had, I think, a desire to give a human face to suffering and a human face to people who were poor. And you can see that in her earliest writings.
During the suffrage campaigns of 1917, Day was arrested and went on a 10-day hunger strike. Later, she fell in love and lived in Staten Island with a common-law husband. In 1928, she embraced the Catholic Church, conceived and baptized a daughter, and became a single mother. Day covered the 1932 Hunger March in Washington, D.C. for Commonweal. Here she prayed at the National Shrine for some spiritual direction to wed her faith with social consciousness. The next day, her prayers were answered when she met Peter Morin, who shared her ideology and later opened her up to Catholic social teaching. Together, they launched the Catholic Worker Movement in 1933.
What inspired them was the notion that the poor really were Christ. It wasn't like they were like Christ or reminiscent of Christ.
That same year, they started the Catholic Worker newspaper, which promoted the social teachings of the church. During the Great Depression, they opened up hospitality houses, a practice which dates back to the medieval monks.
So they started on nothing, with whatever they had at hand. Opened doors of an apartment house, and people came. What did they have to offer? Well, not a lot, but soup, bread, But it was the gospel, the practice of the works of mercy. Feed the hungry, clothe the naked, give drink to the thirsty.
Day went on to write passionately about the events and social conditions of the 20th century in columns, books, and articles. During the 1940s, Day wrote of the immorality of war and the draft. She was a leading voice in American Catholic circles for militant pacifism. In the 1950s, she opposed the testing and proliferation of nuclear weapons. In the 60s, Day worked for integration, publicly opposed the Vietnam War, and prayed and fasted for peace at the Second Vatican Council. In the 1970s, she supported the nonviolent struggle of the United Farm Workers, spending 12 days in a California jail at age 75 for picketing with Cesar Chavez.
She didn't say, come join me. She just sat down. She just said no. And others saw that example and joined in.
Day's philosophy of service, voluntary poverty, and her sustaining vision of nonviolence as a means of bettering society inspired countless thousands. On November 29, 1980, at New York's Mary House Hospice, Day died as she had lived, working with ordinary poor people for social change. Dorothy Day may not be a household name yet, but her life and works are becoming increasingly known. In 2000, Cardinal John O'Connor of New York initiated the cause of her sainthood. The Vatican approved, granting her the title Servant of God. And in 2012, U.S. bishops unanimously voted to endorse her as a saint. The Dorothy Day Guild promotes her as a woman of conscience and a saint for our time. When Pope Francis addressed Congress last fall, Day's cause for sainthood was raised 100-fold when the pontiff mentioned Day in the same breath as Abe Lincoln, Martin Luther King, and Thomas Merton.
Her social activism, her passion for justice and for the cause of the oppressed were inspired by the gospel, her faith, and the example of the saints.
Reaction was one of disbelief.
We feel very encouraged because of Francis's statement, to the Congress that we think it will happen.
Zablotny says that whether Day achieves sainthood or not, she will continue to inspire future generations as she already has inspired so many before.
I think the really exciting thing is because of her, at least for me, you somehow realize that you believe a little more, you maybe even pray a little more, and I'd like to think you love a little more.
Dorothy Day, a saint for our time? Only time will tell. For Real to Real, I'm Steve Kiltonick.
And Camp Holy Cross will be hosting the Diocesan Pilgrimage Day for the Jubilee Year of Mercy on September 10th. To register, you can find a link on our website at iobserve.org. You can also look for more information in your parish. You don't want to miss out on this great opportunity with Bishop Mitchell Rosansky on Saturday, September 10th. And for this week, that's Real to Real. To keep up to date on all the latest news on the Catholic Church, both here in the Diocese of Springfield and around the world, check out our news and information website, iobserve.org. Also, you can friend us on Facebook. We are at Catholic Communications. We will be off next week, July 2nd, for NBC's NASCAR event. I will see you right back here in 2 weeks for another edition of Real to Real, your window on the world around you. See you then.
Real to Real is a production of the Catholic Communications Corporation, funded in part by the annual Catholic Appeal, and the support of you, our faithful viewers.